Hello, this is Team 239 and we'll be making a presentation on the credit report of Airtel as a part of Credit Research Challenge 2018-19. So starting with the brief agenda, we'll look at the business domains in which Airtel currently operates in. We'll have a look at the industry and analyze the industry as well. We'll look at how effective the management and corporate governance is. We'll also look at the existing investment strategies and how Airtel is going to invest in the future. We'll have a look at the credit ratings that is already given by credit agencies, and we'll compare them with the ratings of other competitors as well. After that, we'll analyze the capital structure, we'll look at the financial and liquidity analysis, and finally we'll end with the probability of default and give our recommendations. So starting with the business description, India's telecom subscriber base has reached to 1.2 billion as of August 2018, and Airtel controls more than 30% of it. Headquartered in New Delhi, Airtel operates in 18 countries across South Asia and Africa, and it's a major player in Africa currently. Airtel is the second largest telecom operator in India, and it's the third largest in the world. Also, Airtel outsources its operations except sales, marketing and finance. Currently, its equipment is provided and maintained by Ericsson, Huawei, Nokia Networks, whereas IT support is provided by IBM. Now coming to the services provided by Airtel, the primary business Airtel is in the mobile GSM business, where it has more than 300 million customers only in India, and worldwide it has above 440 million customers. The second business Airtel is in telemedia services. So here it provides broadband internet service and fixed line telephone services. After that, Airtel business includes cloud services, digital signage, voice solutions and conferencing solutions, serving industries such as BFSI, IT, hospitality, government, and it also extends its services to SMEs and startups. Lastly, digital TV services is something Airtel has stepped into in the last 3-4 years, and it provides DTH services across India, and it competes with services like cable and other services like Vodafone, etc. Now my teammate will take you forward.
Now we will be discussing about the industry overview and the competitive positioning in the telecom sector. So the telecom sector in India is one of the most competitive and the most happening industries, as is evident from the recent happenings, whether it be the consolidation of Vodafone and Idea or the recent disruptions caused by the entry of Jio. Now there is a reason that telecom sector is one of the most hot industries in India. It has been witnessing a growth of around 19.23% of CAGR in terms of subscriber base. That makes India the second largest market in terms of the subscriber base. Out of these subscribers, around 500 million are internet users, again making India second largest in this respect. What we believe is that the most significant development in this industry is the rising penetration in the rural market. It has reached around 56% as of January 2018, and this shows that the factors like the illiteracy and lifestyle are not segregating the non-internet users from the internet users. Talking about the affordability, both in terms of the prices of the smartphone and the tariff charges, it has been improving tremendously in India, especially in the last 2 years with the entry of the players like Jio. If we talk about the 4G rates, the 4G data rates in India are presently one of the cheapest in the world. As a result of these bright prospects, the telecom sector in India witnessed a growth of 7.31% CAGR in terms of the revenue, and it currently stands at around $42.6 billion US. Now coming to the revenue market share, the largest player in the telecom sector in India is the new merged entity of Vodafone and Idea, which controls around 36% of the market. This is closely followed by Airtel with around 31% of the market share. Jio, the newest entrant in the telecom sector in India, occupies a market share of 23%. Interestingly, the some of the players who were very major a couple of years ago, like Docomo, ASL, Uninor, etc., currently are very insignificant. The industry overview has been done using the Porter's 5 forces model to understand the competitive rivalry and the opportunities and the threats that the industry has to offer. Due to the high price sensitivity and low switching cost because of the low customer loyalty and the ease of the number portability, there is an intense rivalry between the competitors in this industry. This is also evident in the price tariff wars that the industry has been witnessing, particularly in the last 2 years. Because of the same reason, the power of the customers is also very high, which is further intensified by multiple connections that the users have, resulting into very many inactive and dormant connections. the suppliers of the telecom industry are the government with its spectrum allocation and the networking equipment manufacturers. Coming to the government, because of the auction process of the spectrum allocation and the high demand that the spectrum witnesses, the power of the government supplier can be said to be very high. Now talking about the equipment manufacturers, the less number of the equipment manufacturers coupled with the high switching cost results into further strong supplier power. Now talking about the threat of the new entrants, strict regulations, large infrastructure setup costs, exit barriers and the limitations in achieving the economies of scale results in a low threat of new entrants. Now talking about the substitutes, the major substitutes to the traditional network service providers like Airtel and Jio are the broadband service providers like Nextra and Hathway. They have gained popularity in the recent times because of the rising popularity of the VoIP and the messaging services, and they pose a serious challenge, but there is a caveat in this, given the limited applicability of these service providers and non-inclusion of the call services. These do not pose a serious challenge to the traditional players like Airtel presently. Now we'll talk about the management and the corporate governance practices that the Airtel follows. Starting with the external views, the famous rating agency CRISIL has assigned to Bharti Airtel its governance and value creation rating of 1 for corporate governance practices. Bharti Airtel follows all the statutory requirements that are required of a public limited company, like formation of the board of directors, the management board, and the audit and risk management committee. Apart from that, Airtel on its own initiative has formed many non-statutory committees also, like the Airtel Corporate Council and the like. Talking about the operational aspects, the Airtel follows the practice of circle CEOs and CEOs. So they had the company's operation in 22 circles, and across these 22 circles, the circle CEOs are supported by an executive council. Now talking about the investment summary, Airtel has been very futuristic and continues to be so in the near future too. Airtel is expanding its presence in the entertainment sector with its music-based app Wink Music. It is also associating with the major OTT players like Netflix and Amazon to leverage their popularity to increase its subscriber base. Capitalizing on the digitalization revolution that the country is witnessing, Airtel has launched its Airtel Payment Bank. This marks the beginning of Airtel into the fintech services, and we can surely expect more investments by Airtel in this sector. In terms of capacity too, Airtel has been very futuristic. It holds the largest spectrum, that is the 30% of this total spectrum, to ensure seamless services for its customers. Talking about the tower network, Airtel has been very particular to ensure that with the increase in its subscriber base, the tower count of Airtel across the circles that it operates in also increases proportionately, as it is also evident by the figures for the Q2 of 2019. The estimated figures for the same are 154.5 total towers per thousand. Now my teammate will take you forward through this presentation.
So in this slide, we are going to see the credit rating given by various agencies to Airtel, Vodafone and also Jio. So what we can observe here is that various global credit rating agencies have rated the Airtel as non-investment grade. But this is not the case when we look at the credit rating given by the domestic agencies. So what we can conclude from this slide is Bharti Airtel will face some issues raising money from the foreign market. But this will not be the case when they are looking for the domestic investors. Moving on to next slide. Now in this slide, we will look at the capital structure and we will compare the debt equity ratio and long-term debt equity ratio of Airtel and its major competitor Vodafone India. So debt equity ratio shows the extent to which a company is using the debt to finance its asset. So what we can see here is, for Airtel, the debt equity ratio is much lower than the Vodafone India. This shows that there is much less interest risk with the Airtel, and therefore the investors are expected to get much higher earning per share in the long run. So on the contrary, it may also show that the Airtel may not be using its financial leverage to increase its profit. So, and similar is the case when we turn to long-term debt equity ratio. So basically what we can observe here is that creditors will be willing to invest in Bharti Airtel. Moving on to next slide. Here we have compared the operating profit margin and net profit margin. The operating profit margin shows the extent to which the income is available to fund the non-operating expense of the firm, for let's say interest. So again, what we can observe here is that for Bharti Airtel, the operating profit margin is much higher as compared to Vodafone India. This shows that there is much less risk on the part of the debt holders for the Bharti Airtel. So again, if we turn on to long-term prospects, then yes, the creditors will be willing to invest in Airtel. But this will not be the same case with Vodafone India. Again, but when we come to comparing net profit margin, what we see is, we see a lot of fluctuation, not only for Bharti Airtel, but also for Vodafone India. This may be due to various reasons, basically which will be entry of Reliance Jio in the market. And what we can also observe is that in the recent last 1 year, the net profit margin has suddenly risen. So this may show that gives some confidence to investors for the future prospects. Next slide, we have shown the return on total asset and return on capital employed for Airtel and Vodafone. So return on total asset shows the efficiency which the company is using its asset to generate the sales. And what we can observe is that Bharti Airtel is much better as compared to Vodafone India. So this presents a better growth forecast for company in future. And similar is the case with the return on capital employed, which shows the efficiency which the company is using its capital to generate its net income. So what we can see is it has fallen a bit in the recent time, and this may lead to much larger concerns for the investors. Presentation will be taken forward by my next team lead.
So now we will try to analyze how the asset turnover ratio played a really important role over here. So asset turnover ratio is net sales by average fixed asset, and fixed asset for the company is really important because if we consider it for a long term, we can easily identify that when a company goes bankrupt or when it has to pay a large amount of debt which has been aggregated over a longer period of time. So fixed asset is something which can actually help the company to convert it into cash or maybe into some other marketable security which can be paid off to the creditors. Now in this case, if we analyze the liquidity ratio, we can see that there is a little amount of difference between the current ratio and the quick ratio, and that is because of the inventory. So inventories are of two types for a telecom industry. That is logical inventory and physical inventory. So in this case, if you see that because of the inventory factor, we can see that the quick ratio is still increasing and it is not decreasing. So we will identify with this in the next slide. So in the case of probability of default as per the KMB model, which we can see that it is around 360. So it is quite less. So it is increasing because when Jio was launched in September 2016, there was a hit back for the company, and that was because Jio came with certain number of offers which the company or any telecom company in that particular era could not even match the amount of discount. So there was a huge investment required for Airtel to match such a level, and in such a case they managed to have certain amount of investment which they could give certain amount of offers and discount, and because of that there was huge amount of debt. So since there was huge amount of debt, this led to a probability of default increasing, but it is still quite less, and it is not a matter of worry for any investor. So they can still stick to the company. If we analyze the Altman Z score, it is something which was developed in the 1960s, and then again the accuracy was not that much, but in the days to come, in the 1990s and then 2000, the accuracy really went high, and it can be considered a really great score to analyze the amount of output of the credit and the bankruptcy level for a company. So there are two scores, that is 1.8 and 3. If the company's Altman Z score is around 1.8, they can really not invest in the company and they need to just sell it off. And if it is around 3, they can actually take that company as a great opportunity to buy or even stay with it for a longer period of time. So there are 5 types of score with it attached, which we calculate, that is A, B, C, D and E. So we can easily see that as per the score, it is around 7.01, which is quite higher than 3, and it can be taken as a great opportunity to stay with the company or maybe buy some more. Going on to the next slide, we can see over here that the debt equity ratio is quite low and investors can actually invest in it. And Bharti Airtel has also showed some definite potential to tackle the competition made up by Jio aggressively. So the less probability of default, which actually means that a company can save some disruptive steps by taking up innovation with the latest technological inventions, and also in terms of the government body and support, they have actually supported Airtel in a huge manner. With the expansion of Bharti Airtel into other products and services also, they can find out new ways in which they can earn more revenue. And as per our analysis of the entire telecom industry and Bharti Airtel specifically, we understand that the credit rating of the company will improve in the future. Even though it was hit by a huge amount, by Jio in September 2016 when it was launched that time, but then again it has showed great competition to Jio, and we believe that investors should stick with the company or maybe even buy or hold in a current state. Thank you.